Thank you very much. Appreciate your coming tonight. What are we going to do? As you can see on the screen, why I believe, you really don't care about me, I don't think. You don't care why I believe, except as it would be applicable to you. And that's my purpose for being here as well. I want to tell you what changed my life and what changed my mind, and then you take it from there. I don't coerce. I don't jam things down people's throats. I just want you to know what are the reasons and evidence that changed my mind and changed my life as a result. I'm going to share with you 3 areas of evidence about God, about the Christian faith, and I think as we go along, I just want you to know that there are plenty of voices out there that think that what I do and what I say is Looney Tunes, such as Dawkins, who says, that faith and religion are 2 things. He said they're nonsense and they're ignorance. There are other things too, but nonsense and ignorance. And as a result, he thinks that this would make sense too. Here in Minnesota, the Minnesota atheists put up these outdoor advertising in which they're promoting that it's, as you know now, the atheists are referring to themselves as free thinkers. And they believe that they're on the right track. I'm not here, and maybe one of you are here. And I welcome you. Again, for the very reason, I hope that you'll be honest, you'll listen to the reasons, and take it as perhaps instruction if you want. No matter how many voices there are who are anti-God, anti-faith, anti-religion, you still have to face the fact that 9 out of 10 people in the world believe there's a God. Evidently, 9 out of 10 people have totally been hoodwinked into thinking this nonsense and this ignorance is for them. So in other words, the majority of people of the world are on my side. That doesn't mean, however, that they agree with me on other details and principles, nor does it mean that they know why. I, as a scientist, feel particularly called to explain why, and tonight, for the most part, you're going to hear external evidence. I'm not going to grab the Bible and quote a Bible verse to you. I will do that, but it won't be my main argument. I'll simply show how the argument from external evidences confirms what the Bible has to say. The question, of course, I'm asking here is, why? Why would 9 out of 10 people in the world believe that there is a God? I want you to especially note the word that. Because my first line of argument, my first line of evidence is only that there is an intelligence, a higher intelligence that has to be present behind the universe. It doesn't tell us who it is. So my first argument could be used by Muslims. It could be used by Hindus. And it can be used by Christians. Because it is only an argument that there is not chance that stands behind the universe. What is it? It's the fingerprints of intelligent design in nature. In other words, we look around in the world and we see evidence of intelligence. Let's take a look at how we can understand that. Out in western South Dakota, we are mostly all acquainted with the fact that there is a national monument there called Mount Rushmore. And there in Rock Mountain, you have something, would you agree with me, quite improbable. In other words, no one would go looking at that and saying, gosh, I think that's the result of millions of years of wind and water erosion. Well, we would say intuitively, that just looks like somebody did it. Even the little children that would go to the observation deck and somebody told them that this is a result of chance, they'd look at their mom and dad and say, it looks to me like maybe somebody did that. Yeah, intuitively we look at it, but we don't know how to define that particularly well. We don't know how to say the difference between something that is intelligently sourced and something that is sourced in chance. What we have to have is also the second category called highly specific. In other words, look up there. Can you find George Washington? Well, yes, you can. Why? Because it's the same guy as on your money. And it's also the same guy you'd find in a museum of history or any other number of places. In other words, it's done so well that the facial features are recognizable. It's highly specified. Abraham Lincoln. It doesn't take a genius to figure out who these people are because it is highly specified. And when you have something that is highly improbable and highly specified, you have a case for an intelligent cause. In other words, I mark design, not law. There's no law that can make that happen. There's no chance that can make that happen. It has to be the result of design, the result of intelligence. Now, again, all I'm pointing out here is that that's exactly what the Bible said we would expect if we look at the world. In Psalm 19, it says, "The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of his hands. Every day after day they pour forth speech. Night after night they display knowledge." Notice, they don't display ignorance. They don't display nonsense. They display knowledge. There's no speech or language where their voice is not heard. Their voice goes out into all the earth. Their words to the ends of the world. Right there, you see why 9 out of 10 people believe in a higher intelligence. Because everybody lives on the planet. And it doesn't matter if you speak Russian or Chinese, English, or any other language. It doesn't matter if you live in North America, Africa, or Asia. The voice is everywhere. It's speaking so loudly that people look around and they simply say, I have difficulty believing that this happened all by chance. It's intuitive, but that doesn't prove it's scientific. How can we be certain, though, that something has occurred as a result of an intelligent source? We can know when complex and specified information is exhibited. If you look at the letters that I have there, you'll see here that, you might say it's a fairly complex set of letters, but it could be generated by a computer, and it doesn't have to be intelligent necessarily. You might have a program or something, but it's complex. But here's where the rest of the part comes in, the specified part. If I took those letters and I moved them around, and I put some letters in this cluster, some letters in another cluster, and another cluster, and another, and then I looked at it and I said, I want to put them in this order, the clusters, and I'm going to put the little dot at the end of the last cluster. The same letters. The complex is now specified. Only then do you have a case for intelligence. Because the likelihood of going into that sequence with that order and that spacing and everything else is highly improbable, and it's far too specified. So they call it in science today complex and specified information, CSI. And they now have methods and techniques by which they can take anything, this building, your car, your shirt, and apply principles to it and find out what the CSI value is. In a certain level of CSI, you determine that the shirt was made by intelligence. It was in an intelligent source. It didn't happen by chance. So that is now turned into a more of a scientific approach, and therefore the same idea is used by SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. So what do? We put up receivers of electromagnetic signals around the world, and we're receiving the millions of electromagnetic signals that are coming out of space. What we want to do is detect if any of them are coming from an intelligent source. How would we know? Go to the SETI website and look it up for yourself. They're looking for the existence of coded information on the signal. What did we call that? specificity. It has to come not with random signals, but it has to come with a code. It has to come with a message. It has a high CSI. Some of you have seen the science fiction film Contact. That's a play in movie form of the SETI program, starring Jodie Foster. They assumed, however, in the movie, that they received a signal with their equipment, and they said it's from an intelligent source. If you remember from the movie, they got a repeating sequence of prime numbers from 2 through 101, and precisely the sequence of all the prime numbers from 2 to 101 came on that signal. They said that is from an intelligent source. Why? It's highly specified. You don't get that kind of thing from random chance background. Complex and specified information equals the result of intelligence. Now let's go to you and I and every plant and every animal that exists on the face of the earth. It's called the DNA molecule. A double helix, and if you could figure out how to get the two apart so that they'd be two like bars going parallel to each other, you'd notice that they're hooked together by what might look like rungs of a ladder. The rungs of the ladder are chemical substances that are bonded together like steps throughout that DNA molecule that are communicating a message. What do I mean? DNA, the genetic code, has only 4 letters. You can only make 3-letter words with the 4 letters. Any combination. Now, if I were to come to you, you know no background about plants and animals, you know nothing about the world or anything, but we're going to start from fresh at the beginning with nothing else that exists. And I say to you, here's 4 chemical letters. Make 3-letter words out of them and make 1.5 million plants and animals, including giraffes, turtles, roses, people, with 4 letters. Wouldn't you say to me, are you crazy? Nobody could do that. But that's exactly what we find in the world of biology. DNA uses 4 letters and 3-letter words and codes, manufactures 1.5 million species of plants and animals, a different code for every one. Thousands of sentences make up a gene. Thousands of genes make up unique blueprints, like I said, over 1 million of them. Do you think that's complex and specified information? I think so. Scientists were so interested in what's called the human genome. We had 46 chromosomes. Each chromosome has DNA strands in it. And the combination of the 46 chromosomes represent our blueprint. It's how you make a baby. They studied the 46 chromosomes, called the Human Genome Project. At the end of that study, they published the results, and they found that there were 3.1 billion letters. And Time magazine took that study and said, life's twisted plot line, DNA's like a book. I've got a few of them up here. Not very big. The result of chance, you think? Or this one or this one? None of us even imagine that, do we? It's far too specified to imagine that this came about anyway but by intelligence. $3.1 billion is just too big a number for us to get our arms around. Unless you're in Washington, D.C., but that's another story. But you can get your hands around this. This is the Bible, the Old and New Testament. Sometime when you have a lot of time, start with Genesis, the first book of the Bible, and go through it page by page and count the letters. And when you get down, put them at the corner, of each page, how many letters there were on that page. And when you get down to the end, get your adding machine out and click it up and count the letters in the entire Old and New Testament combined. You'll be surprised. There's only about 3 million letters in the entire Bible. Now let's compare, what are the odds that this came together without any intelligent source? Well, we'd say that's absolutely absurd. I taught biology for about 25 years at the college level. And there wasn't a textbook that I could buy and use for the students that didn't tell the students that DNA is the product of millions of years of mindless, random processes of evolution. Yeah, that's right. It only takes 800 equivalent Bibles stacked on top of each other to equal the 3.1 billion letters that it takes to make me and you and a baby. Chance? It is totally absurd to think that we can attribute to non-intelligence 1.5 million blueprints that have such high specificity that we would have difficulty coming up with it, combining all the intelligence of humanity. We couldn't have come up with this. Highly specified information, remember, equals the result of intelligence. Even Bill Gates gets into this. He says, DNA is like a computer program, something he knows something about, but far, far more advanced than any software we've ever created. Oh, Bill Gates does not think that if he got rid of the intelligent men and women that are employed at Microsoft, he doesn't think he'd get any more software. Because it's too highly specified not to have an intelligent source. So that software like DNA is so highly ordered, information rich, that it could not have arisen by chance. We believe that it has to have been created. I'm simply using observations from the natural world to say it is not plausible to attribute what you see in nature to non-intelligent sources. So we have letters, we have words, we have sentences, we have blueprints. If I mark design, however, in a secular classroom, I may be called in and my job would be in jeopardy. I'm not allowed to talk about intelligent design in a college or university public classroom. Go figure. How can that be? So I went to Job chapter 12, and I found it very interesting. It's almost a put down to us that ask the animals and they'll teach you, or the birds of the air, they'll tell you, or speak to the earth, it'll teach you, or let the fish of the sea inform you. Which of all these does not know that the hand of the Lord has done this? And of course, using Scripture, I'm assuming a God of Christianity concept or any God at all. But as I started with my introduction, all I'm demonstrating it now, that there is something of a superior intelligence that has to be standing behind what we know as reality on planet Earth and in this universe. This is what the Bible, if we'd have gone there first, this is what the internal evidence of the Bible would have said. I got there using external evidence. That which is known about God is evident within them, for God made it evident to them, being understood through what has been made, so that they are, say it with me, without excuse. In other words, wherever this is sourced, which I believe is sourced in God, but I haven't gotten there and I haven't demonstrated that to you at all. But the position taken here is that no one will be able to stand before God, this intelligence someday, and be able to say, how could I have known? It says my fingerprints are all over the world for all to see.